Hey, welcome back everyone to another video. So in the last 10 days I participated in a game jam and I managed to make a game, and you guys can play it right now for free on itch.io. I'll leave the link in the description box below. I thought it would be pretty interesting to talk about making a game from start to scratch in 10 days. So the game jam starts, and what do you do? Well, it turns out that making a game during a game jam is almost exactly the same as making a normal game, except just way faster. So it all starts with a concept for your game, and I usually split up this process in two different parts. One part is thinking about the gameplay. What kind of game will your game be? Will it be a platformer or an RPG or a shooter? And if it is a platformer, what kind of platformer will it be? What will be the thing that makes your platformer different than any other platformer? And then there's the second part of the concepting stage, and this is thinking about a theme or a world for your game, kind of a setting for your game. So will your game set place in a fantasy world or in the real world? Will it be a cowboy game or will it be a samurai game? And once you know this, you can also start thinking about the art style. Different themes might have different fitting art styles. If you have an abstract game, it might be really nice to have sort of a painterly look, or if you have a retro style game, pixel art will be a good fit. Now, I'm kind of a crappy artist, I can only do pixel art, so that choice is quite easy for me, so I went for pixel art. So one difference with making a game for a game jam and just making a game for yourself is there's a theme, and in this case the theme is a Game Boy style game. You have to make a game that resembles a Game Boy game. And when you think about this, there's a few things you have to take into account. The resolution is really small, it's only 160 by 144 pixels. You can only use 4 colors and there's only 4 buttons. There's the A button, the B button, start button, select button, and then the D-pad to move your character around. So the first thing I did was think about Game Boy games that I enjoyed myself when I was young. And I'm not sure why, but the first game that came to mind was Pang. Pang is kind of a action puzzle game. There's a ball bouncing around the screen and you have to split it with your rope, I think it is. I'm not sure what the character shoots, but you have to shoot this ball and it splits up. And if it splits up many times, it will just end up being destroyed. And when you destroy all the balls, you kind of win the stage. And the thing I liked about this game is it's just a single screen. It's just all very compact and you don't have to walk around the big world. It's all there. You can see everything that the current stage has to offer in a single view. And I liked the slow pace of the game. I was pretty young when I played this, so probably my reflexes were not that good yet. And you kind of have to position the character quite slowly, but still have to think ahead where the ball will bounce, and you have to kind of strategically position your character to be able to shoot the ball and also not get hit. So that was kind of the gameplay I was going for, and now I had to think of a theme. And there's two kinds of people when it comes to thinking of a theme. There's some people, they want to make something completely new, they want to make a whole new world and kind of make something from scratch. And then there's a different kind of person, and that person gets influenced by everything around him. And I am that person. I get influenced by everything. If you look at my other game, Spirit Sphere, you can see that's quite heavily influenced by old Game Boy games. Or if you look at my other project, Pakoro Pals, you can see there's some Mario in there. So yeah, I'm the kind of person who gets influenced by everything around him. And something I did recently is rewatch Kimetsu no Yaiba, or Demon Slayer. This is an anime about a samurai that slays demons. It's really cool, you guys should all check it out. But yeah, I rewatched this whole thing recently and it was just stuck in the back of my mind, I guess, and I wanted to do something with this theme. So now I knew the gameplay, I knew the theme, and the next thing is to get to the drawing board and make some sketches or some concept art. Now, I'm not that good at drawing freehand, so I went straight to pixel art. So the first thing I did was draw a character. This is the character that I came up with. Like I said, I was inspired by Demon Slayer, so I made sort of a samurai character, and I always think these kitsune masks are really cool, so I added a mask. And then I drew some enemies. You can see them here. They are demons, but I wanted to do something cute. Since the Game Boy always has these cute sprites, I wanted to make some cute demons. So here are some cute demons, and here is a cute little ghost. And then I went on to draw the actual level for the game. And since I already drew a lot of this kind of Japanese style architecture for Carry Me Melody, my main project, it was quite easy to draw this, so it was kind of a safe choice as well to go for this theme. So you can see it's a shrine, and it has these little ropes with these papers that I always see in Japan, and these are for warding off evil spirits. And yeah, you can see it doesn't work that well because there's a bunch of evil spirits here, but it's up to our samurai little guy here to ward off those demons. That's what the player will do in the game. So once I drew all of this, I actually wanted to animate the character. I wasn't going to make any code yet. I know some people like to prototype with squares, but I like to have some art. I think art is pretty important to the feel of the game, so I tried to get that out of the way at the start. So I went into Sprite, which is my tool for drawing animations, and I made some animations. So this is the idol, he actually doesn't move at all, and this is the walking animation. And I knew there was gonna be some combat, so I wanted to make some slashing animations. So here you can see a slash animation, and I also made a slash up and a slash down animation, which was a complete waste of time since I didn't end up using them at all. So you can see that planning is pretty important because I didn't plan properly and I just wasted time on some animations. This doesn't matter that much in a big project, but in a game jam I only had 10 days. So this was waste of precious time. So this is all I needed at this point. I knew I wanted a character that can run around and jump and attack. And I wasn't too sure yet on the specific moves that the character would use later. I would first move on to the programming, just get some basic movement. And once I had some movement, I could start to think about extra moves that the character would have. So I got all the art into the game, so now that I have something visual, I can start thinking about the idea that I had. My idea for a game was something where I can take my time. Like I said, with the pen game you can kind of take your time, it's not too fast, but I wanted to focus on that even more. I wanted a game where you can completely take your time and you don't have to rush at all. I do like action games a lot. One of my favorite games is Super Smash Bros. But as some of you might know, I have some trouble with my hand that's gradually getting worse, and playing Smash Bros. Is pretty uncomfortable for me right now, especially pressing the trigger. I have a condition in my finger, it's called trigger finger, and it's quite painful to press the trigger on the controller. So I wanted to do something where you can take your time and where I personally wouldn't have any trouble playing. So you can see these elements here at the bottom of the screen. There's a lightning bolt, a water droplet, and a fiery, flamey thing. And yeah, so I started experimenting with the movement. And I think I wanted to do tile-based movements, kind of like the Pokemon games have. So when you move just a single tile at a time. Even though you move tile based, I still wanted people who enjoy action games and who have healthy hands, unlike me, they can still move around quickly and do things really fast. And so I wanted sort of a combination of tile-based movement and just fluid movement. So I tried to make the tile-based movement as unobvious as possible. I'm not sure what word to use. It should be kind of hidden, so if you hold the button, it just looks as if you're running normally. It doesn't look like you're actually moving tile by tile. And I think it works pretty well. So then the idea I had for the game was to put all these elemental tiles in the bottom of the screen, and you kind of collect these elements to perform attacks. I was sort of inspired by Magic the Gathering, which is a card game where you have to use mana cards in order to use your spells and summon your monsters. So if you press down on the keyboard, you can collect a single lightning energy or a single lightning mana, and then you gain access to the lightning slash in this case, and if you press the Z button, you can use the attack. So we use the attack, and you can see now this tile underneath the player is empty. But if we move over to a different tile, we can collect the energy from this tile, and if we move around a few turns, you can see the energy respawns. So what happens if we collect 2 lightning energies? Now we have access to a new attack, and this attack doesn't uppercut. So it kind of moves you upwards. And as you can see, you can kind of collect different types of energy to make different moves. So just as an example, let's grab a fire energy. Well, then we get the fire slash, which is not very interesting, but if you grab another one, you can get a fireball, and you can shoot this fireball, and you can see it's a projectile move. And my idea was there's different type of situations where you want different types of attacks. So there might be some enemies that are easier to kill from far away, so then you will have the feeling, oh, I have to go quickly get this fire energy so I can shoot this enemy at the other side of the screen. Or there might be an enemy above you and you have to use the uppercut in order to reach it. So each element kind of has its own purpose. The lightning energy is good for vertical movement. The water energy is good for horizontal movement. So if you use 2 water energies, you can do a dash. And then the fire energy is good for ranged attacks. I think I'm making it sound like I did all of this really quickly, but actually at this point I was already 8 days or 7 days into the jam, and yeah, there was like 2 or 3 days left. But I finally had the foundation for the game, and now I could actually start making a game around it. So one thing that I spent way too much time on was to make sort of a move editor, kind of an attack editor. So you can see there's a timeline here, and there's 3 different tracks. There's a sprites track, and here you can place the sprites that are being used in the move. Then there's a hitbox track, and here you can put all the hitbox data. And then there's a velocity track. In this case we're editing the uppercut, and when you use the uppercut the character kind of moves up, so you can use this velocity track. So if we scroll through this timeline, you can see the move is being executed. And yeah, actually if we open up the summary on the right here, you can see that the hitbox is also being added once we go here. So this is the hitbox, and if we open up the debug view, you can see that the hitbox spawns here in this section of the move. And yeah, we can right click this frame and we can adjust all the data for this move. So here you can see the damaging component, and we can kind of say how much knockback should there be, how much power should there be, and you can kind of design your own moves this way. So with this timeline system you can design your own moves, and this is really something I should have had ready before the game jam, but I ended up spending 2 days on this. It was really fun and I can use this for different games as well, but it was kind of a waste of time. I could have really used this time to make some more enemies. So this is what the move actually looks like when you use it in the game. Pretty cool, right? So the first thing I had to do was implement some sort of turn system for the enemies. So when the player moves, the enemy also moves. And this is kind of where the idea of going at your own pace comes in. As long as you don't move, the enemies also don't move. So you can just take your time, think about your next move, and you don't have to worry about doing things really quickly. You have to kind of think about your moves and think about how you can defeat this enemy. So in this case, since we are a few tiles away, I think I want to use a firebolt. So I grab 2 fire energies and I shoot the guy. So the enemy is dead and now the next enemy will spawn. And this is a different type of enemy. This is a jumping enemy. So this guy requires a bit more strategy since he jumps all over the place. So I think I will grab the fire again since we are already on the fire tile. But now I have to think really carefully. If I move now, he's gonna jump on top of me. So I think it's safer to jump and then move. And yeah, this way we avoided his jump and now I can shoot him. And now the next enemy spawns in again. It's random, whatever spawns. And this is kind of the flow of the game. You keep defeating enemies. So yeah, because I didn't have enough time to make any levels, it ended up being kind of a horde mode game where you just defeat as many enemies as you can. And just to demonstrate that you can kind of play the game as fast as you want, you can do everything real time as well. So you can just run around and jump in real time and then attack this guy in real time. It doesn't really feel like a turn-based game, which is exactly what I was going for, so I'm quite satisfied with that. But unfortunately, this was already 2 days before the deadline and I just didn't have any time to make any complicated enemies. And I think that's kind of where the game falls flat. The enemies don't really require any strategy. I can use pretty much any move to destroy this guy. I can use the uppercut, or I can use the fireball, or I can use the water moves. And yeah, that's kind of a shame. It would be better if the enemies really required more strategy, if they would block the player, or if they would avoid the player and you had to use specific moves. But yeah, it's a game jam. It was just too short, unfortunately. So you can see that there's 3 slots for the energies, and I think the majority of the time in this game jam was making all these moves. So I had to make a total of 9 different moves. So if we collect all these energies, you can use the thunder attack, which is pretty cool. Yeah, you have to admit that looks pretty badass. But unfortunately, since the enemies don't actually require this attack, it's not that useful in the game, and that's kind of a shame. So you can see that my poor planning kind of led to a lackluster type of game. You can see there's potential in the game, but I just didn't have time to bring this idea to fruition. So here are all the enemies I ended up making. There's the jumping enemy, there's the walking enemy, there's a bat that shoots projectiles, there's a little flying ghost. And yeah, I ended up really rushing this in the last day. I made all these animations really quickly and I didn't have a lot of time to think about their moves, and it kind of shows in the game, unfortunately. And then I also had to make a logo. In this last day I did so many things. I don't think I ever did so many things in a single day. So here you can see the logo. The name of the game is Kitsune Katana. In case you don't know, the kitsune is Japanese for a fox. And the mask that the character is wearing is also a fox's mask. And he uses a sword, and a typical Japanese type sword is a katana. It's a sword that samurai use, so I named the game Kitsune Katana. And then this is the kanji in Japanese. This is the kanji for kitsune, and this is the kanji for katana. So I made a little menu scene with some clouds passing by and the logo of the game. And I think it looks pretty cool. I'm pretty satisfied with this, especially seeing how quickly I made this. And then the last two things the game needed was music and sound effects. So I went into Reaper to make some songs for the main melody and for the stage itself. And I used some Game Boy style sounds. There's two square channels, there's a triangle, and there's a drum kit. I never actually made Game Boy style games, so I think I did pretty poorly. You can see the melodies are really simple. I made this really fast, but it was pretty fun to make music under these limitations. So I might try again in the future. And then I needed to make some sound effects. At this point it was 2 hours before the deadline, and I managed to make all the sound effects in these 2 hours. I'm really impressed with myself. It was pretty stressful, but I managed to do it. So the software I use is pretty cool. It's called Lab Chirp, and you can use some presets here. So if you want, I don't know, a jumping sound or an explosion, let's choose an explosion. You can choose explosion here, and you can press randomize. I hope this isn't blowing off your ears. I'm not sure how loud this is, but it will make different explosion style sounds. And then if we want a jump, we can choose jump here. And you can kind of play with the parameters here to change the sound a bit. And yeah, you can kind of make your sounds like this. It's a really cool piece of software, and it's free. So if you want to make some 8-bit style sound effects, I can recommend this software. So once the music was in, the sound effects were in, the art is in, the gameplay is all in place, the game is finished. And the thing I should have had more time for is debugging and playtesting the game, because I found out later there's a whole lot of bugs, and that's kind of a shame. But this project was just a bit too ambitious for a game jam. There's so many moves that the player can do with all the energies. I had to design so many moves. And yeah, to make sort of a conclusion to this whole game jam, I'm quite satisfied with the end result. I think the idea really shines through really well, the concept of the game, but in reality it doesn't work that well yet. But yeah, it shows potential, it definitely shows potential. I have a lot of ideas to improve the game. I think it would be cool if you could actually use multiple moves at the same time. In this case, we're using Game Boy limitations, so there was only one attack button. If we have access to 4 buttons, we could use one button for the fire moves, so we could use a firebolt, or we could have a separate button for the water move, and then you have kind of a choice what to do. And then if we expand the energy slots to 6, you have a lot more moves at your possession at a single time, and you don't have to keep running to get new energy. And you can be more strategic, so you have to think ahead. Oh, I want 2 fires and 2 waters, because then I can dodge if I want to, but I can also attack if I want to. And I think that opens up a lot of cool techniques and a lot of cool combos. And I think playing this against another player would be especially fun. Another thing I think would work well with this system is kind of a card system. So you draw cards and you kind of get your moves on the fly. So maybe we draw a firebolt card, or maybe we draw, I don't know, a meteor shower card, and then you have to think, oh, I have this strong card, I can keep this for later when there's a lot of enemies on the screen. Yeah, I have a ton of ideas for this game, and I don't think I have time to work on it anytime soon, but I'm glad I took my time to work on this project and kind of make a solid prototype that I can build on later. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I explained pretty much the whole process. You start with a concept, you make some sketches to get your idea on paper, and then you just start making the game. And yeah, I hope you guys can take some time to play the game and let me know what you think. I know it's not perfect, I know there's a lot of bugs, but hopefully you can see the idea that I just explained, and I hope you can see the potential. And if you enjoyed the game, please leave a comment on itch.io and rate the game. I will really appreciate it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my explanation of my whole process. And yeah, it was perfectly possible to make a game in 10 days. So I think the key is to keep it small, something I definitely failed to do this time. But if you are thinking of making a game, just pick a really small concept and try to make it really quickly. If you have too much time, you end up working everything to perfection, and if there's kind of a rush behind it, if there's some kind of pressure, it will help a lot in getting things done. So if you want to get started making games, I can totally suggest just join a game jam and see how far you get. So you know the drill, like the video, leave a comment, share it, and download the game of course on itch.io, it's free. You can play some of the other GBJAM games as well. Some people made some really fun games, I might cover those in a different videos. So thanks for watching. I think the video must have turned out pretty long, so if you made it to the end, thanks so much for watching all the way, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.